There's a really great tea that you could consume on a regular basis. In fact, you only need to drink a glass of it per day to create some really significant effects, especially on cortisol. And here's the problem. When you're exposed to cortisol over a long period of time, it's like being exposed to insulin over a long period of time. So in other words, the receptor is blocked, so the signals don't get back to turn off things. And so the cell actually is suffering from a cortisol deficiency. And so then the adrenals just start pumping out more and more and more and more. So you have a situation where you have a lot of cortisol in the body, yet it's not working. So you have all sorts of problems, inflammatory problems, stress problems, weight problems, et cetera, et cetera. But this problem can actually come from two different ways. One is through stress, but the other is not through stress, but just by having a genetic problem with the enzyme that turns the inactive form of cortisol into the active form. Okay, so there's this enzyme that basically does that. So it's kind of like having cortisol resistance. So both of these problems really give you the same bad problems. But I'm going to make you aware of this one phytonutrient that can potently help you reduce cortisol. I first want to just mention all the effects that can happen if you have too much cortisol in the body, whether you're experiencing stress or have a problem with this gene. So number one, you could experience depression, anxiety. You can also experience more belly fat, okay, because these receptors for cortisol are in the belly as well. So you could be just pumping out all this cortisol and getting fat, like quick energy, cognitive problems relating to your focus, memory, concentration. And this also is related to metabolic syndrome. And that's a combination of midsection fat, high blood sugars, which is kind of diabetes or prediabetes, and then also hypertension, and then also high lipids like LDL, cholesterol, things like that. All of that coming from high cortisol and high sugar. Another one, polycystic ovarian syndrome, okay, which is an androgen problem in females where they're getting facial hair and midsection weight and a deeper voice, is really coming from high levels of cortisol. Could come from a diet problem by consuming too many carbs or experiencing too much stress, okay? Now, another problem that's actually quite common is bone loss after you go through menopause. And that could come from either this genetic problem or high levels of cortisol. Cortisol is very destructive to your bones. So that's going to put the person at risk for fractures. And of course, the person also is going to develop insulin resistance, not necessarily from sugar, but from the stress. So what is this phytonutrient? Okay. Well, it is EGCG in green tea. Okay, how that rhymed. So green tea is what you need to start drinking on a regular basis. You just need a little bit, but consistently just drink it every day. And it's an inexpensive thing. It's easy to do, and it can greatly help you reduce cortisol in a potent way. And that enzyme called 11-beta hydroxysteroid dehydrogenase type 1. Now you can sound very, very smart at a party, but here are the other things. You could actually do licorice, curcumin, which is good for just about everything, and also emodin in Japanese knotweed. So there you have it, some really great information on a natural way to lower cortisol without all the side effects